As an author, I think there's pretty much no point of banning books or challenging them because they make books more popular. Like my books are getting more read.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because if you just ban books, it makes the author just get more of their books read, and it gets them actually more probably well known than they would be if you didn't ban them.
I have to agree with you because that's a good point. Like when people do ban books, that the author's books do get more popular, which is good for you. But sometimes people just don't agree with your opinion in your book.
Also, banning books. I don't think. Well, the First Amendment is freedom of speech, so it sort of can go both ways. Because freedom of speech saying you don't like it, you want to ban it, and the author's freedom of speech. So you sort of have to weigh and figure out which one, as a society, you feel is more important.
Another reason I think people shouldn't ban books is that, some people ban it because they don't like the language. But, at school you hear language like this all the time. So it's like, if you're going to ban this book, my students are going to hear the language anyways. So it's not really making a difference.
I also agree with that because some books actually do have inappropriate language, but if you go to some schools, more than half of the school will be stating inappropriate language also.
I agree with that. I also think that not just language, but other topics too, like the other group was saying, like a lot. I said like 10 times. Books get banned for reasons like sexual reasons, and they'll hear about that at school from their friends. They'll find out somehow. I mean, practically most kids with internet access, it's not that hard. So it'd probably be better as a parent to tell your student and child and talk with them about it first before they hear about it from everyone else.
That's actually, I agree with you because that's actually a good point because most of the time on the internet when you're looking at stuff like on the social media page like Twitter, Instagram, you'll find stuff that isn't books but more visual. And so that's it.
So books are the better option. If you're going to find out, I'd rather have my students find out through a book than through their friends saying, hey, look at this.
What do you have to say about that, Tom?
I would agree with her because you're going to find out about it anyway, no matter what kind of friends you have. Like going from one class to another class, you'll hear about it in the hallways or outside. And at lunch you hear a lot of it. But still, I usually read a book to get informed or for entertainment, and I don't want someone taking that right away because it's learning about things that actually happen most of the time. But it's kind of a good idea to ban books, but not really, because you're taking away someone's right to read. And if someone really likes that book, you can't just take it away from them and say you can't read this anymore.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's so much easier if you just take care of it yourself with your own child and say, I don't think this book is I don't think you're ready for it. I think it's easier just to do that instead of, having everyone's students say, no, you shouldn't be reading this. Because some people might feel, if I as a teacher feel people need to learn about this, it's easier for me to just say, I don't have a problem with you guys reading this, instead of saying, none of you can.
I agree with what Lydia, was doing. I guess students actually versus prefer than we use it because of what it can be. I agree with you because nowadays many authors do write about these kind of things
either way, people are going to learn about it anyway. It's best for them to learn in the way, anytime they want to learn about it, because that is giving you a topic to write about, which is what you like to do. So I think that is a good point, actually.
So there's so much more in books than just, that one part that someone doesn't like. There's so much more meaning to the book, and there could be a strong message that people want to find out about and learn and hear about. And then if you just, something's bad about a book, then no one can hear about how good of a book it might have actually been.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chloe, because sometimes people focus in on one certain word, and it's really not the point of the book. Like, the point of the book may be totally different than that one sentence or page, and people should just look over it, or maybe tell their kids not to read it, or things like that, and not just ban it for everyone.
As a parent, I also agree with that. Because a few bad words in a book is, I guess, okay. But if that's also not the main point that you said. But if it's like, if throughout the book they keep on saying it over and over again, then maybe that book is not appropriate for them and they should just not read that book.
I see your point, because some books are just age appropriate for some children, but then you should read books that are appropriate for you, because not all books contain the whole book. It's usually just a page or two, and then the rest is pretty much just for entertainment, and it's okay.
Also, another thing is if you ban a book because you don't want a certain age group reading it, that bans the whole book so no one can read it. Maybe you don't feel that, maybe I as a teacher wouldn't want my students reading a certain book, but if I challenge a book and it gets banned, then that means not even adults can read it.
A lot of people will start reading it if you get a book banned or something.
I agree with that because as a student, I feel like I should have the right to read whatever I want, and I kind of know my limits on what I can read and shouldn't read. And if you think about how many people you're taking that book away from that are actually in that age group that are allowed to read it by their parents and are forced to read it by their teachers. If you're forced to read a book by your teachers, read it. But if that book gets banned, you kind of have to read it in secret or just not read it at all.
I agree with you because that's a good point, because everyone, even if someone doesn't like it because their kid that isn't in the right age group for it is reading it, and they're banning a book that some other people might like or an age group likes it, then they can't read no more because someone banned it. Good talk.
I agree, and I also think that as you guys covered, you write more complex topics like that with more complex reading. So it's not like you write a topic like that with maybe a kindergarten understanding. It'd probably be more advanced reading and not just for anyone. So I think when students if they get to the point where they can read it, they're probably old enough and mature enough to read it.
If you're going to ban a book, I think there should be a specific age group that you ban it for, because Tango Makes 3, that one page is a little messed up. And so it should be banned for 5 through 6-year-olds or 0 through 6.
I see your point because you shouldn't ban it for everyone. In a country where a book might be banned, people might have not even heard of it, or it might be banned for 3-year-olds, but of course parents can still read it, or older children. But you shouldn't ban it just for everyone.
For example, a book might be banned for racism, for example, and maybe the author's trying to teach what racism does, so it sets a bad example, or so it shows, kids, oh, I don't think I should be doing this, and it might actually teach them they shouldn't, be doing racism because they see in the book what bad effects it's caused.
agree with you there because sometimes people when they're reading, you don't like completely understand it. Like some people think the wrong thing. They're trying to teach you how not to do that stuff in the book. They're trying to help you not be a bad person.
Racism is a very current topic because social media and all that, because you're behind a screen, so you don't think anyone can touch you, but still banning books about racism for racism is kind of silly.
Yeah, and I think you also shouldn't ban the textbooks because it's helping kids who maybe are victims of racism a lot and things like that to help them go through it and know that other people are going through the same things and they're not just like a freak or something. They're normal.
I see what you're saying there. Like it's helping kids get through tough times, and they can relate to the book and say, okay, this is just me. How am I get through this?
As a student, something I don't understand is about why would people ban a book about violence, like Captain Underpants, for example. Why would you ban a book like that?
I see your point because mostly these kind of books are just made for entertainment, not made for like taking seriously.
Yeah, and also I see why people want to ban it because I agree with you guys, and I also feel like that some parents are a little like overprotective of their kids and want to shield them from everything and like reality, but reality isn't perfect. Reality has those things like abuse, racism, and all those things. It's not just like all glitters and rainbows. It's like real life.